everyone, it's Alice, and we're at that time of year again where it's time to make an autumn TBR. Now, I have many reading plans this fall, and honestly, not a lot of time to read, so we'll see how this goes, but a girl can dream, and I've basically just had a little peruse of my shelves and picked out some books to show you, and hopefully I will get to at least some of these over the next couple of months. We have a mix of a little bit of everything, but we're gonna start with this one. This is The Impossible Girl by Lydia Kang. This is a historical fiction mystery, and I've read one other book by this author and I really liked it, so I want to read some more of her books. And I feel like if this book is anything like that other book that I read, the vibes are just going to be perfect for this season. It's set in Manhattan in the 1950s, and we meet this main character who seems to be able to sort of float through all levels of society, both in like wealthy societies and in the slums and everything in between. And she is a resurrectionist, and she's the only female one in New York. And so she spends her days procuring dead bodies with like weird anomalies to people who want dead bodies, because that was a thing back then. The mystery comes in when a series of murders occur though, and it seems like they're getting closer and closer to her somehow. I don't really know how, but she's getting worried that someone is after her, and I think she's worried in general that someone is after her because she has, I think she's born with two hearts or something like that, and so the people who want dead bodies with weird things in them also maybe want her. I don't really know. It sounds very interesting though, and I like the idea of a female resurrectionist, and it sounds interesting and a little dark, which I'm into. The second one that I have is also set in the 1800s. It's A Fever of the Blood by Oscar de Muriel, but this is set closer to the 1890s, I think, and it's set in Edinburgh. And it's the second book in a series I'm reading, actually. And I read the first book a couple of years ago, and it was so good and so atmospheric and just so much fun. So I really should get around to reading this one. This series follows two detectives who are kind of opposites. One is a detective from Scotland Yard, he's an Englishman, and the other is this slightly superstitious Scot who also works as a detective, but in Edinburgh. And in the first book, they team up, and I'm guessing they're staying a team in this one. And the mystery in here is about this patient who has got out of this lunatic museum, and there's like suspicion that there might be some dark magic going on, or like that has something to do with it. How? I don't really know, but the first book dealt a lot with sort of the occult and sort of darker things, which I really liked, so I hope this one does as well. And there is something on the back here about some witches, so maybe we have some of that as well. I don't really know, but the first book was super atmospheric and very much like set in a very foggy, dark Edinburgh, and I hope this one is as well. I think it will be perfect to read this season. Then I have two books by Kingfisher, and I can't make up my mind which one of these I want to read first. So if you've read any of them, let me know what you thought. We have The Hollow Places and Thornhedge, both of which are beautiful. The Hollow Places is about a young woman who is at her uncle's house. I don't know what she's doing there, but she's there, and she finds this portal to, I think, some other worlds or some other realities, I'm not quite sure, but there are creatures living in these worlds that I think are quite dangerous. It says on the back here that pray that they are hungry, which sounds ominous, and I think this is gonna be a little dark and I don't quite know what to expect, but the premise sounds really good. Thornhedge is a little bit of a shorter one, and this seems more fairy tale-esque. It follows a creature named Toadling who was kidnapped at birth by the fairies or the fae, and she's lived there her whole life. She's grown up there and she's actually quite happy there. But then one day the fae ask her to do this task, which seems very simple, but apparently it's not. I already know that I like this author, so I kind of want to read both of these as soon as possible, but we'll see. Both of them sound really intriguing though, and I just really like Kingfisher's writing and like the humor and the tone of the books. I can see that it's maybe not for everyone, but I love it. Next, we have a book from another author that I know I love. It's The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Katherine Arden. And I have read the Winter Night trilogy, like the whole trilogy by this author, and I love those books. They're so good. So I'm really excited to read something else by her. This is a little bit different from that trilogy, but it sounds really good. It's set, I think, around the time of the First World War, and we're following this combat nurse who loses her brother during the war. Like, she's told that he has died, but then after the war, she hears these rumors that maybe he's not, and that he has survived somehow, and it has something to do with this mysterious man with incredible abilities. What's going on, like what, how, when, I don't know, but it sounds so interesting. And I think there are some fantasy elements in here, and maybe some magic. I don't really know, but I'm really looking forward to it. I also love this cover. Like, it's beautiful, but a little dark and a little creepy. Then we have this beautiful book. This is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. And this is fantasy horror, I think. And it's about this main character who is a part of this family who's like the last true witches in their city. But she has this tyrannical father who's like really horrible. And I think he forces his kids to run this sort of like tourist trap that's kind of like witchy, but kind of not. I think the story sort of takes off when the character and her sisters, like one night they sneak out and they go to this theater, and I think the main character falls in love with one of the dancers in the show or something, and that's a whole thing. And then there's something about a monster lurking in the city, and I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing she's gonna have to fight him and like find her powers or something. I don't really know, but I'm very excited about this, and I'm excited to read something from this author because it's an author I've wanted to try for a while. And I also, like, there's a new book out by this author that I really want to get, but I'm trying to tell myself that I need to read this first so that I can go get that. Next, we have a bit of a dark academia type book. It's Madam by Phoebe Wynne, and this says it's like a darkly feminist gothic tale, which you know I'm into, and it's set at this school which has been there for 150 years in like the Scottish cliffs or something, and it's like super prestigious and infamous, but it's also very mysterious. They seem to have very like closed doors and no one really knows what goes on there. And our main character is in her like mid-20s, and she is hired to work there as a teacher, and she's the first hire in over a decade, and she's super excited because it's a very prestigious school. But then of course she gets there and maybe not everything is as it seems. I know that this book has gotten kind of, well, very mixed reviews, but I just want to give it a go for myself and see what I think. With books like these, often they have like sort of low average ratings, but I end up enjoying them anyway because there are elements to these kinds of stories that I really like. I love the idea of like an all-girls boarding school and this very atmospheric setting, so I'm just gonna try it and see if I like it. Then I got Rouge by Mona Awad. I keep reading this title as Rogue. It's just my brain. I can't like compute the fact that this is called Rouge instead of Rogue, even though it makes perfect sense that it's called Rouge, but whatever. This is the same author who wrote Bunny, which I really, really liked, so I'm just excited to read something else by her. I think it's a sort of gothic-ish horror type book, and it's about this woman who is obsessed with the way that she looks, but this obsession takes a new, like reaches a new level when her estranged mother dies, and she goes to the funeral, and at this funeral are all of these people dressed all in red, and it seems like, I mean, they seem very mysterious, but I think they're a part of some sort of cult, and the cult has something to do with like appearance. They run some sort of weird spa, and I'm guessing the main character goes there, and it probably doesn't go very well. Very intrigued about the story. It sounds super weird, but then Bunny was also very weird, and I ended up really, really liking it, so hopefully I will like this one too. Next, we have another book that I also think has some dark academia vibes. It's A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. At least it seems very dark academia based on this cover, which I really, really like. I like the illustrations. Anyway, I've had this book for ages and I really just need to get on it. It's a YA mystery, And of course, it's set at this prestigious school. Our main character, I think, is returning to the school after having been away for a while because her girlfriend died. And she returns to the school and she just wants to graduate. But it seems like she was into some sort of like witchcraft stuff before, and now she's trying to get away from it, but there's like a secret society. I don't really know, but I think she gets pulled back into it. It sounds interesting. This is YA, so I'm not having like huge expectations, but I think it could be like atmospheric, and honestly anything with like academia vibes I usually am really into. The next one also has a school setting, but this is an adult novel. It's Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergey Dyachenko. And I think I may have had this on my autumn TBR last year as well, so whoops, I've had this book for a while. But it's just one of those books that I feel like I have to read when it's autumn because it just has that vibe to me. The story follows a teenager who I think is on summer vacation with her mother, and when they're on this vacation, she's approached by this super weird stranger who I think he ends up asking her to do some tasks or something, and this like gives her a place at the school. So he offers her a place at this weird school that's in the middle of nowhere, and it's like a school of special technologies or something, and she ends up going, which I'm wondering why she goes if he's so weird. But she ends up going, and she gets there and like none of the curriculum makes sense, and they're reading books that they can't make out, and everything is just really strange and hard. And then the school is also run with like coercion and terror, so it sounds like a really peachy place. There are fantasy elements in here as well, I'm pretty sure, so I'm wondering if the special technology that they're learning is like magic or something. I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this book, but it pops up occasionally, and whenever I see a review, it's always a positive one. So I'm hoping this is gonna be good. I don't really know what to expect from it, but I think it will be interesting. Second to last, we have another book that I've been meaning to read for a while. It's Things We Say in the Dark by Kirsty Logan. And this is actually a short story collection. And I used to read like several short story collections a year. I used to be kind of into them, but I also felt like I could never really find what I wanted or what I liked. I could never really figure it out. But I have had this for a while, and I think this might be a good way for me back into short stories because I know that I really like Kirsty Logan and her writing. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. I really think I'm gonna like it. Short stories are hard though. I don't know what it is about them, but I have a hard time finding ones that I really like because I can never really figure out what it is that I like. It's also always really hard whenever I talk about them to sum them up. So I don't really know what these stories are about. Some seem to be like sort of like chilling and supernatural, and maybe some fairy tale inspired ones. I don't really know, but I do know that I like Kirsty Logan. So I'm gonna try this and see. I also really like this cover. I'm guessing this is gonna be quite dark, which I'm into. Lastly, we have another translated one. It's Jawbone, which is a horror novel that sounds pretty disturbing. It's about these two characters who are super close, and they're almost like sisters, but I'm guessing because it's phrased like that they're not actually sisters. And I think one of them ends up being kidnapped or something, and she's being kept in this deserted cabin. And how she got there, I don't know. I'm getting the sense that this sort of flips back and forth in time. I'm not entirely sure. But there is also something about these girls being part of this group that are doing like increasingly dangerous rituals. I don't know what those rituals are, but yeah, maybe some magic or something. I don't really know. I've seen a lot of really good reviews for this though, which is why I want to read it. And I really like this cover as well. Although it's one of those covers that's like, it's pretty when you look at it, but then the more you look at it, the more disturbing it becomes. So I really wonder what I'm going to find in here. That was the last book that I had to show you though. Now I'd love to hear all about your autumn reading plans and your TBR. What books are you looking forward to reading this season? I would love to hear all about it in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!